I'm part of Microsoft, and under which I take care of Visual Studio Dev Solution part. Regarding myself, I have been part of this industry, in fact, tool industry for around 10 years now. So I have worked with multiple tools, starting from development tools and going down to testing tools. So today we'll be talking about the solution called Coded UI. Right? As Shakila was mentioning, you know, while we are on, you can keep mentioning your questions. People who are able to hear us, although it's quite a big number who is not able to hear our voice, but then still, since more than 50-60% of people are unable to hear us, so we'll continue with the session. So the solution is primarily about automation regression testing. You must have heard about multiple solutions in the market. Coded UI is one part where you know, it helps you do the regression testing. I'll explain in depth once we'll get into different sections of Coded UI. Okay, so the objective would be, you know, since it's a 1 hour demo, so we'll be talking briefly about the fundamentals of Coded UI. We'll talk about how the test is created, how do we run it, a little bit of customization, and I was mentioning to Shakila that probably, you know, a month later, probably we are planning a deep dive session where we'll be talking about in depth of the Coded UI as well. So today it would be more from a perspective that, you know, people who are not aware, or people who are new to the regression testing, who are new to the Coded UI, fairly basic understanding, you know, I should be able to give you within this 1 hour, where at least you can start, you know, if you have the solution with you, you can start looking at exploring how does a Coded UI works. So what is basically a Coded UI? So as I mentioned, it is an automation regression testing tool. So we all understand what is automation and how it is beneficial for us, right? As we all understand, as an application grows, the manual testing efforts keep on increasing, right? You might find that a small change done by a developer needs, you know, weeks of you know, almost a month activity from a testing team, but unfortunately you don't get that much amount of time. So we need some sort of a solution which can quickly you know, help us doing those activities. Probably if a few of us would have attended the session which was done last week with respect to manual testing piece, MTM, and if you have seen, there is something called as fast forwarding in MTM. I'll also briefly touch upon MTM because there is a unique capability which comes with the Coded UI and which is very unique in the industry, is you can convert those manual test cases, those exploratory testing which you have done as a manual tester, into the automation testing scripts with all those objects identified, and you know, you can run your automation scripts which become more resilient to the change. So, as a part of the solution, it comes with Visual Studio 2010. So, obviously, Coded UI started with Visual Studio 2010 and onwards. So, we will be seeing the product Visual Studio 2012, and in a couple of months, we will have Visual Studio 2013 coming up. And this is one piece in Visual Studio which has a lot of momentum and which is, you know, getting what do you call as enhancements on a periodical basis. Because if you are aware of the Visual Studio as a solution overall, it's quite a mature solution running in the industry for past 15 years. But on the testing piece, this is one section of the Visual Studio which is getting developed, or I would say enhanced periodically on a very you know, agile manner, and you'll see a lot of enhancements coming in, a lot of supports coming in. It is one of the key sections which is targeted as of now from a Visual Studio perspective. And fairly in a couple of years itself, the solution have been able to come up with a lot of key features. As I mentioned, putting the manual scripts into an automation script is one of the important feature which we will be looking at demo today. So this is just a overview, just to rephrase the people who have attempted last time manual testing piece. So here your MTM comes, right, where you would have seen exploratory testing, your test case management and all those activities. So next step is automation testing, which is part of the premium and ultimate. So these boxes are like subsets of each other. So whatever is there in test professional will be part of the will be part of the premium, also will be part of the whatever there in the premium will be part of the. So whatever written here is just an additional. So load testing comes as a part of ultimate, which will be a demo which will be conducted next week, same time, same day, right? So moving on. So why we need UI testing? So as we understood, doing a manual testing, putting that effort again and again, and initially it doesn't count much, but as the product increases, as the product or application grows in size, you will find a small change in or small enhancement requested by the customer or by the product team. Now, and developer doing just a day's work requires a week's time from the testing team to put that effort day in, day out to come up with the results. So regression testing is primarily helpful when you have applications. So the question comes up, what are the right candidate? Who should we choose for going for the regression testing, for the automation testing? So the right candidates would be applications which would be running for a longer duration of time, probably more than a year or so, right? Applications where you require a very continuous testing. So for any enhancement, you need to make sure that application need to be tested at every nook and corner. Because with the manual testing, people also do some sort of an ad hoc thing and they are not able to cover the entire stuff. So a lot of these candidates, these features if you see, then those applications become good candidates for your automation, right? So where does it get placed? Obviously, after the development, you have this testing phase where you start building the automation scripts. A very important aspect, as I mentioned, you can keep your test cases, manual test cases ready while the application is under development, right? Into NTM. And once those section, once you see that portion of an application is ready for deployment and ready for the testing, those test cases can be run in the NTM and the recording mode. And later on, once you feel that those test cases are final, which need to be submitted as a part of the suite which you are looking at, they can later be converted to the code as well, right? So what are the general sequence? It remains same for across any industry solution. You have to record first, you have to need to customize in automation testing tool, and then obviously you play back multiple times and see whether your script is behaving properly. You have to troubleshoot. So it requires some sort of a development effort, but the key here with Visual Studio Code UI is, since it's based on a language which is .NET and just quite easy to adapt and understand. The important aspect is many of the things which probably may not be out of the box, or probably as of now, many times you will find in the testing tool there is a very complex scenario which you are not able to implement, right? Since this it provides you with a full language support, you can always develop your own. You can ask developers a couple of days of help to write certain scenarios for you, so that it can be done or it can be tested in your environment. Another very key feature, since it's part of Visual Studio and parts of which is part of your premium and ultimate versions. If you are using TFS, you can version control your scripts, right? So that's again something which you can, which can help you with respect to your maintenance piece. And very importantly, this coded UI test can be run in 4 different ways. It can be run through a command line. It can be run inside a Visual Studio 2012. And if you associate a manual script, and for that manual script, if you associate an automation script, so from MTMOD you can fire an automation script. And again, a very unique feature of coded UI is it can also be fired from a team build, team foundation build. So if you are using this build and you have using the build capabilities of TFS, you can fire your automation scripts from team foundation build as well. So the moment the build is deployed as a part of the sanity testing, as part of the regression testing, you can just make sure that your all the automation test script starts and tells you because of what all changes happened in an application, where all the effect has been there in the application, where all the other part of the application is failing. Right? So it gives you a fairly good understanding and very, I would say, at the time while the deployment of the build is happening, at the same time those tests get run, and it can be done in an automatic fashion, so no manual intervention is required. The moment build runs, it gets deployed. At the same time, automation tests will start for testing your sanity or testing your. So you might come up with a suit to do a sanity testing. So the moment build comes, I want to verify first of all whether that build is okay to be taken for testing. So I can do a sanity testing on that, and once I'm okay with it, I can run my regression to make sure that that the changes which have happened, enhancements which have happened, hasn't affected parts which are already working, right? So, okay, so I'll touch these couple of slides more, and then I'll move to demo. This is basically the UI map. You might have heard about, people who are aware of the automation testing, you might have heard about object repository, collection of objects, all those terminologies which are there in the industry. Exactly the same line, you have this UI map, which is nothing but a collection of objects, right? You see in this particular slide, on the left hand side, you are able to see all the steps which you have followed. So you have traveled. So while you might be recording a plain English with respect to, you have clicked on this button, you have clicked on add button, then click to button. So basically it's a plain English step which you perform onto the application while the coded UI was on recording mode, right? If you see on the right hand side, so the same steps which are written in a document fashion, in English fashion, on the right hand side you can see what are the objects which are associated to that step. So you might have clicked on some button, so that button gets added up as an object, which will obviously will have certain properties through which you can put assertions, or I would say verification, and assertion is more of a unit testing theme word. So I would say you can say verification, checkpoint sort of thing, which can be put on the specific fields. And obviously you can do this data binding, and you can run your automation scripts multiple times. There are multiple formats which we support. We support CSV format, we support Excel format, XML format, SQL. So if you really want to directly pull the data from the SQL database and just want to test it onto your UI part, it is possible. You can pull in the data from your database also. And obviously the easiest of all would be you can change the data into your NPM solution, which you would have seen people who have attended last week that does the demo. In that NPM you can change the data, manipulate the data, and that same data can be used to run the test script multiple times, right? So this other section I'll touch later once we'll be back from the demo. So let's move on to the demo machine, and I'll quickly open Visual Studio. So I'll close the instance which were earlier open. So now we are connected to the TFS and go to new project. So from here you can choose what type of language you want to choose to create the test. You can use the C Sharp, you can use Visual Basic, whatever language you want to create the test, whichever you are comfortable with on automation. You go to the project, which is okay. So you can create, likewise you can create the unit test and you can also create the performance test, which probably we'll see next. Okay, so now once you open the coded UI test, you will see this interface which talks about that this particular recording can be done in two fashions. Either you can record directly from the coded UI or you can use the existing action which are as a step which are already available in your MTM, as I mentioned, right? So let's see both of these options today, and let's start off with using existing action which are already existing in your MTM. So I'll say using existing action, and I click on OK. So it asks me what is the test against which you want to create a step. So there might be a lot of MTM, there might be a lot of test cases, test scripts, manual test scripts which you might have written under MTM, right? So it's asking you which one you want to take, right? So I'll just take by an ID and figure it out whether something is available. Yes, for ID 41 there is a test case which is available. I'll just choose this test case and so. So if you see what it has done, it has created an entire script with all these different methods, all these different activities which was done during that test. So in a way, it symbolizes that if you have done manual test case in a fast forward way, you can very easily convert those steps which were performed in MTM into an automation. Now this testing script can be run on any particular system, any particular machine, right? With the MTM, there was a limitation that obviously if you're recording in your machine and you're doing it on this thing, if you change a lot of environment in the backend, it might fail, right? But in coded UI, you can, once it gets converted to the coded UI, you can just take it along, and obviously it has become more like an object-oriented with objects of all the activities you have performed, right? If you want to further go into what these methods are, so what is this add to cart pledge, or what is this quantity which I have added, I just need to say right here and say go to pledge. Okay. So I can go and see what is this activity which we perform, right? This is called as designer.UI. This is I would say the scripts which gets generated is always in a layered fashion. So what we see and what is visible to us is this coded UI test.script. This is the file where we can enhance our script, we can modify our script, right? We should try not to touch this UI map.designer because this is an internal file for the system, for the ID text. And if you modify anything on this particular script, while you will automatically from the binary format again change and modify the script which was there. It will bring it one. So there is no point changing the designer or UI right? If you have to, in any case you have to work on this, then it's better you change a UI map.cs file. This is where you can override the method or the activities which UI map.designer file was provided. Okay, so before I move forward, let's quickly try to run the test and see whether it's working fine, and then we'll see what are the different activities or customization enhancement we do. So how do we run it? Just we have to say right click onto the script and say run. Right, so it should perform all those steps. So this is people who are new. This is just a sample application where what we are doing is we are it's a Tailspin Toys website, which basically airline portal where we go for the model airlines and just choose certain ads particular activity to our cart and just like a blog, just a shopping sort of application. So if you see on the left hand side, it shows me that the test was passed, and it's showing the result at the bottom that this particular test was passed. And if you have also noticed, this test ran for multiple times. So why did that happen? So that means there was a data which was there in the test scripts, which was again part of the manual, because of which it ran multiple times. So let's go and quickly verify what was the data and can we add and enhance more data. So I'm going to use NPM. Okay, so test that, we open and select this test bin if the ID was on 1, and as you open this, if you see the bottom, there are three set of rows of data which are present, and that was the reason why this particular test ran for 2 to 3 times. Right? Let's try to add one more set of data. So before adding one set of data, let's also put some verification point in the script so that we are seeing the past case where the script is running perfectly. Now let's try to fill the data and see whether we provide certain inputs which might fail our finale. Okay. So how would I have to modify or add any step to the coded UI? So let's say I know what are the steps which I have performed. Now one thing could be that since these steps have been auto-generated from the manual script, you might find that these steps may or may not be self-explanatory. In those cases, you can go and modify these steps. So you can say, you can just click on this change quantity, this thing to new quantity, and you can just rename to whatever new name you want to give to this particular method for your team to make to understand, right? Or else, while you will be recording through the coded UI filter, which I will show you next after this demo. In that, you can, while you're recording, you can keep giving the logical name so that the script becomes more maintainable and the understanding of the scripts is there, right? So I'll just say right click here and say generate coded UI test and go to the coded UI test builder. What happens is, you can see this is the recording option which comes up, and this is what is coded UI test builder. So before I add up any step, I need to make sure that I am there in the application at the same place where I want to add, right? So I'll quickly go to this place, and let's say this by default when I added, this value was coming to be 1. So I would want to record an assertion and record a verification and see whether this works fine on in my script or not. Let's start recording. Assertion. And I have to just drag and drop. And if you see, what it has done is, first, the moment a verification is taken, recording automatically gets paused. And number 2, for that particular object, it identifies all the properties and give it to me. Now it is up to me what are the properties I want to take and put a verification. Right? In my case, probably I can just take a text. You can see some text. yeah, default text, or say text only, and say add a session. So the moment I say add a session, what you are looking at, so what this blue box which is showing it is actually at the backend is trying to identify an object. So I say r equal to 1. I can also put some message saying that further just to make most myself more understandable verification. So I can say that just a message. If I say on a session, if it fails, what is the message I want to give? I can give any specific message according to my understanding. I'll say one. So the moment you do that, you can see that you have a tick mark here. That means that this is the value which it will check while the replay will be on. Right? So it is type of a verification point, and it will check the value 1. So what we will try to do is we try to change certain value and see how does it behave. Another important aspect is I've opened this verification point. You can see this UI map at the same time, right? And what it is showing you that this is an object which have been added up, or this is the verification point which have been added up. I'll just close this up now. Since our part of adding up is done, so we'll just close this. So let's do it once more. Stop. We did not add it to that, right? So there. Text, session, okay, we will generate it, and we'll say this is, we want to name the verification point of the session. So, okay. And this is where we can put some counts. So we say add and generate. Okay. So here you see now this one step has got it happened, right? Which is nothing but if I right click there and go to function, see what is the verification point I have. I can also see the UI. Okay, so let me run this, and then I'll show you the UI map. How does it look like? What we should call the function. Sorry, from here, so 10 to 15 seconds. Okay. I can also put a wait statement to see. So now you can see the test script failed, right? Reason being, we were expecting the value 1, and you see that in NPM, the values which were provided was all of the different values. It was A, 0, and minus 5. So all the values were different compared to what was expected in the message. So we were expected to, and if you want, you can just click on the output. You should be able to see that based on the reason for the point 3. So now quickly moving on to the UI map. this is the section which I was trying to explain you there. Was on the left hand side you are seeing all the whatever we traverse in from a test case point of view, and on the right hand side I can see all the objects which were listed. So I can do enhancement to these objects. So there might be a situation in your environment when certain objects get refreshed or enhanced in the new release or the new build. So you might have to go and update those objects. If there are certain location change onto the screen, those things can automatically be taken care of by ODDUI. But if there is certain property change onto in an object, then it is recommended to better go and update that object. So you can directly go and update that particular object from ODDUI. Right? So if I click here, you can see what is an object which is start happening. If I click on the right hand side, you can see what is the text which is associated with this particular object. Right? So this is UI quantity edit, and it says that type A in the quantity text box. So this is nothing but the plain English which is there in your MTM, and on the right hand side you can see all the objects getting recognized, identified from your coded word. So that obviously you can make it more object oriented and you can identify the object, make your script more resilient to change. Okay. So I also mentioned that if you have to modify anything, you have to change, enhance your script from a code perspective. And this part I would take in the next session when I will be talking about not only from a scripting point of view, I will also be touching upon the frameworks. Very importantly, a keyword-driven framework, which we will be discussing, because automation in industry today has obviously over the past 7-8 years have moved on to the automation frameworks, and it is also very important to understand how we can use these automation frameworks, because it makes life of the business guys and the technical individuals. So at the back end, you can keep recording with the script, you can keep enhancing the script, and from a business guys, they can keep selecting the tools, keep making sure that a particular sequence is followed for a test case to be run, and subsequently they are more focused on their business flows which they are looking at. Okay. Now, we have done all these steps. Okay, so let's do one more thing. As I was mentioning, if you want to add, so probably right. So I'll just remove this verification point from the script, and what I'll do is I'll add one more value, one more data here to my text view. Right? I'm just trying to show you how you can parameterize, or how you can put multiple data to your scripts. And if you want to run it for multiple times, you want to data. So
don't say that.
So the important thing is, as a business guy, if I have got no set of data for which I need to run my test case, or as a manual tester, I have got no set of data for my application which I need to be testing. And once my automation script is associated with this particular test scripts, I do not have to worry about. I can just quickly come here, just change, modify the data, and because of some reason, I don't know why it's showing me a clock error. Actually, these are VMs which are running. You can see on the bottom it's showing me 2012. So these are VMs which have a fixed clock, because of which I am assuming that this problem is coming. So, but anyways, the point I was trying to refer here was that as a manual tester, as a business guy, I need not have to worry about how at the back end what is data I need to question, I just need to come to the MTM, I need to see what are the steps I need, which are the test cases I need to look at, what is the new data I need to feed in, and I just can just quickly feed in here and it automatically goes, and while your automation coded UI script is running, that particular data is run multiple times. So you can do that data driven testing. Okay. So now let's look at a new script from I would say scratch, how it can be developed through a coding program. So let's take project test. Let's add to the current solution. And now this time around, let's take this record action. Okay, so before we start, let's start to click on the start recording. A very important aspect for any automation tool in the industry, you have to be very careful of. Make sure that you are not doing multiple activities while these recordings are on. And if by any chance you have to do it, make sure that you are pausing the script and then doing some, those chat windows and all those things while you are recording should not get open. So it always create unnecessarily hindrance or emissions. So you can work in a offline mode and then you can do that. So once I have done, say for example, certain steps, it is always better. It is one of the good practice in coded UI that you click on this generate script. So I would say open URL of browser. Right. So I opened a website which is tailspintoys.com. Say add function. Right. The method got added up onto my script. You can see the same recording and click on model airlines. So view planes. Always try to generate this code after certain small logical steps, right? So that your script would be a bunch of small collections of steps, which if any point in time you feel that certain thing needs to be modified, you can just modify that particular step. So it will be more in a maintainable fashion, I would say. Probably in the future, if you want to anytime modify, if you want to change any specific activity, you might have to just look at that particular method rather than, if you make one monolithic script, it might end up, you might end up writing the entire whole script again and again. So it is always prescribed that to make it script which is more resilient to change. So I would look. So we have done certain activities, so I'll make it as model line, right? I'm again naming a particular method and I'll say add injected. Now again the second step got added up. So again resume the recording, click on add to cart. Again probably I'll generate another method called as a best practice. You can also write an explanation. If say for example you are performing 2-3 steps for that particular method, probably it is better to write that explanation so that not only you, the other team member who is looking at that particular method at a later point in time can understand it and then use these methods also. So these methods are quite a bit shareable methods and you can use it across methods. So as we were trying to see last time, for the verification point, just click on this, drag it, object. So after you want to verify it, just choose that particular item. You wait hold for it. Verification. Or give logical name, what thing, Add generate, program recording, just closing the browser. Close it. Let's stop. So if you see, all those methods which we created are listed here. This .ui map, .openURL, then model airline, method name which we created, add to cart. So if you want to see internally what is this model airlines doing, just click on right click on that and go to definition of the F12, and then you'll be able to see whatever steps which have been followed. So it says that click model airline link and then click view plane link. So whatever what we're trying seeing here is it's also showing you parallelly the English which was getting recorded, the document which is getting recorded. So in the UI map you'll be able to map it against those objects. Many times people come across and ask that these coordinates are also getting recorded. Is that this recording is dependent on coordinate? No, it is just part of the internal understanding where the Visual Studio. It does not depend on this. I don't consider it. If I delete it also, if I remove it also, it should not affect our from our object perspective, because this is more understanding those activities as an objects. The click which you are making onto a particular object is taking as an object, right? So if that object moves onto the screen anywhere, it will be able to identify and click on that particular object. So that is something which we have to keep in mind. So once we have done this, let's quickly right click and stay with this. Let's see how it will perform. Many times, probably in VMs, you might have to put the wait statements. The script is moving too fast compared to the application. All those things. You might have to look at those things as well. So as I'm not showing me coded UI to exception, S2 control is not available. So it's mentioning the control is not available or valid. So basically, it's you see. These are one of the I would say example where the script and the test, the application which is running are not synchronized. You might find out. In fact, this scenario will come up when you will try to have your data pooling, especially from the database. So when you try to pull from the data and then try to do a verification onto the application. Many times you will see there will be a time gap, time legacy in between, and those would be the cases where you might have to put the wait command, which is basically you have to say that playback settings or wait for whatever thread you want to. So if you want to say wait for all the threads, you can mention that. So there is a command which you have to mention in the script through which it can wait for that particular certain section of time till that object appears onto the application, and then it can move on. So that would be a classical example which will always remain, which you need to make sure that you are looking into. So we discussed the coded UI builder, we discussed the UI existing action recording. You can also do the profiling and all those things. Obviously, those are both part of your Visual Studio features, which can be done. You can make a bunch of it, and you can say that okay, run all the tests which are pass tests, and those can be run on the build as well. Okay, coming back to the presentation section now. Right. So, as I was discussing the UI maps, there is also a concept which we call it as we can create multiple UI maps. This is basically which is nothing but the object repository. You are trying to store multiple objects of an application, and these objects are shareable. These objects can be used in multiple scripts. So you can have a shared object, shared UI map repository, which can be used for multiple scripts. There might be situations where people have already been using certain objects, so it can just be shared. You do not have to create multiple types. So when to create a multiple UI map, so one of the classical places, obviously if you have many pages of forms in your application UI is quite complex, it makes a lot of sense to have these UI maps created. And if you have this need their common control access in various places in the application performing a common function like the wizard, that is another aspect, another thing which you can look at with respect to your UI maps. So I'll also discuss some of the best practices. Although while we were discussing, I have mentioned a couple of best practices that you should be aware and you should be attentive to while we are working on to the coded UI SDKs. So we need to make sure that, as I mentioned, you're not touching the designer scripts, right? If you have to modify, make sure that you're modifying your UI map.js file. Limit your recording methods to less than 10 user actions. So, as we were mentioning, right? So, if you have logical steps which you are following, make sure that you are keep creating the methods in the loop, so that it should not happen that in a particular method you have more than 10 to 15 steps, and at any point in time, if any change happens or any enhancement happens in an application, you then have to rewrite the entire script or you have to re-record the entire script. So rather than have divided those into smaller sections of methods, then it becomes far more easier to execute those steps.
One method, all actions. All actions.
Another very key important aspect is use the logical names, use the meaningful names which make most sense to your project, to your application, and to the maintainability of those methods and the verification or assertion which we discussed. So that you can have certain format, standard which you can follow across your project and can be used. So, what are the coded UI techniques? So you can create a new method, right? From each page perspective. So I can have a method which is it is actually dependent on the type of application you are having and the type of logic, the business logic which you are following. So according to that, you can have a self understanding on how much I should be, what should be the logical break which I should be giving for each method, right? And if you have large application, as we discussed, use multiple UI map files for each module, so that can be shared and used properly. Periodically re-record and test versus editing existing step. So, many times you will find that, since and you saw during the demo also that recording script was far more easier than probably if you have to go and edit now. If you see, there is too much of edit which is need to be done, it is far better to go and record this thing. Again, if there is a lot of change in the UI and happening for just one or two features, probably we can go and modify that specific method. But there is a lot of enhancement, a lot of changes which has happened. I would suggest rather go and script again. Okay. So let's move on to the question and answer. Please, I will try to read out the questions which are presented, and then
Yeah, so I guess Himanshu, we have around 7 questions.
okay.
So probably you can start with the
Yes.
first one. Yeah.
Right. Right. So can you provide some example with C++ unit testing? So unit testing is a separate piece with respect to coded UI. Coded UI is, as I mentioned, it is more primarily for regression testing, and unit testing is more of a developer piece, and we will have a separate session on unit testing. Where we'll touch upon the unit testing piece.
Any question?
What is the difference between simple and
Is it possible to
testing?
jump the next test of failure of
What is the difference
one test
between
on
Selenium and
coded UI test?
Microsoft?
Okay, so right, it is possible. So if I have one script, so while I'm running the build, I'm going to test script with test case phase. I can move on to next script.
Exact framework ఏదో
And this particular specific feature is
మనకి ఎట్లా కావాలంటే డెవలప్ చేసుకోవాలి.
something which is already possible. You
RTL support
can
చేస్తుంది
do that. Although, as I mentioned initially itself, that coded UI is a section,
అదే
it provides you with the option
framework support
other and also provides you with the development because it's the top of the business with IDE. So, if anything is missing, you can always go back and mention, you can rewrite the code yourself as well, but then yes, possible. Is converting manual test steps coded UI is available in 22? Yes, it is. Automation testing throws the error in the form of it's throws in the form of an image. So the moment the error comes, it not only shows you in an image format. If I want, I can also have a video recording when the error came. So imagine a situation: the test script was running and there was an error which came up. So I can have a recording mode option on, where what can happen is that scenario for whatever time limit. So if I say 5 minutes of recording or 2 minutes of recording, so it keeps track of the recording. The moment test script fails, it will take that 5 minutes of recording and give it to the you as a tester can show to the developer, and you don't have ability with respect to okay, whether this bug was happening or this scenario was happening. It will be visible at my end, not at your end. All that discussion will not come into the future. The second important thing is that you can also associate an IntelliTrace log.
Can we do automation without test cases directly?
You can also not only tell the developer what is the problem and see what was happening at that point in time. You can also tell the developer, see, this is the code base, or this is the place where you need to work on. IntelliTrace basically is a picture of Visual Studio, which collects the log at the same time. The instrument basically your application. It might affect certain bit of performance while it is running, but then as of now we are doing the functional testing, not the performance testing. So you can quickly pick up that log, give it to the developer, and when the developer will open that log, his IDE will be able to open the line of
కాదు నువ్వు ఆ రోజు డబ్బులు టెస్ట్ కేసు రాసావు కదా ఆ టెస్ట్ కేసులో నువ్వు ఒక 5 యాక్షన్స్ చేసావు అనుకో ఆ 5 యాక్షన్స్ నువ్వు ఐడితో కాల్ చేసి నువ్వు
right, so I will cover one demo with multiple UI maps. We will cover this section. We will cover this section. We will cover the framework section. The next just the 1 hour. I wanted the basic activity to be completed this time around. Next time around, I would request you. In fact, definitely the participants who are joining today to come up and we can take you through that next step, how it can be, we can take forward the framework activity and use multiple UI apps.
చేసింది C# కదా.
Like as I mentioned, we will touch upon the keyword framework. I'll not go about all the frameworks because that is the framework which is supported by Coded UI as of now is keyword driven, so we will be touching upon keyword. Is there any possibility to show the test execution? Yes, as I mentioned, it is possible in multiple ways. You can schedule the scripts through the build, you can schedule the script through the MGM, right? So that is fairly possibilities. How to link test cases and test manager to test methods and coding UI. Test. So if you are asking how to link those. So you have the test cases in MTM, right? Manual Test Manager, you will have those test cases there, and those test cases can be linked to this coded UI scripts through MTM, right? So I can record the scripts, and if you remember, I have opened an NPM, and in that NPM I was showing you that by adding the data value one, value 10, which did properly because of that date error. So there on the last tab, it was showing me associate automation script. So there I can associate my automation script for that particular test. I can have multiple automation scripts for a test case, so I can associate all of these multiple automation scripts. As I mentioned, I'll cover this multiple UI map picture. How to check or wait for a particular object to load in the application. As I was mentioning when the demo was on, that you have to put a wait option. So there is a multiple options with respect to wait. You can say wait for all the threads, or you can wait for a specific thread or specific feature, and the command basically goes by the playback setting.wait for ready level equal to wait for ready level of all threads. So this is basically a command. If you mention this command after the specific function, at that point it can wait for all the methods, all the activities to complete it. What is the format of the test case required to use existing test case, and how can I wait dynamically? So the method which I told you is basically to wait dynamically itself. So it will wait till the time that object doesn't load, then automatically it will restart. With respect to wait, what is the format of test case required in PFS? Not sure of this question, but then if you are trying to say that in MTM, what is the test case required where I can convert them into an automation coded UI? So basically you can have your multiple manual test steps available there, and then those test steps can be run once through the manual tester, through the MTM, and once you run it and you store it into MTM, so that test it becomes legitimate to get converted to code. Can you throw some light on this? So as I mentioned, Coded UI is part of Visual Studio Premium Edition 2012 and Visual Studio Ultimate Edition 2012. So if you have Visual Studio Premium or Ultimate license with you, that is where you can use the Coded UI feature. If you have Ultimate, you can also do the performance testing.
మూడు పేర్లు ఉన్నాయి
Very
బాలా
important.
మూడు పేర్లు బాలా రాఘవేంద్ర.
Other than that, for having NPM, you need Visual Studio Test Professional, right? And all of these three versions, Test Professional, Premium, and Ultimate, comes with an SDN subscription, which in turn gives you the access to TLS, to Automation Server, which if you are not aware, basically helps you manage the entire TLN cycle from deployment management, build automation, version controlling, with your lab maps and all those activities. Can we check the Java-based application with this? As of now, no. But then I think there is some section which have been added up in 2013, and we'll get back to you in the next demo what is new which have added up in 2013. But yes, and I'll also try to share a list of technologies which are supported. So most of the .NET technologies are supported. Most of the web applications with HTML5, Ajax, and Silverlight, latest versions. All these things are supported as of date. But yeah, from a Java perspective, till 2020. Can we track track code coverage with NPM configuration? Yes, we can. Is it possible to do an image verification? If you are looking at a bitmap verification, no, as of now. Can you show an example on how to do it? Test execution, the video. Okay, I noted these all points, and I will show in the next demo. Probably I'll take longer than 1 hour, and we will try to show you test execution. The Google part. Application is getting closed after executing each test we have tried to Visual Studio. So application was not getting closed. Basically, I was putting that assertion code. So while I was generating the code, it used to, the code used to go to the ID, and that's the reason you might have that feeling that it is getting closed. Data driven from CSV and data file, yeah, it's possible. You can do it from CSV, you can do it from XML file, you can do it from Excel, you can do it from SQL, you can do it from MQs. Can we segregate the activity that we perform into separate function and reuse them in other scripts? Apart from that, is it possible to use a customized framework this tool? See, as I mentioned, regarding your customized framework, since this is nothing but a development IDE, you can definitely write, and we have a lot of open APIs which you can use to customize and integrate the new solution. It's very much possible, but yes, out of the box, as of now, we have one framework which is given. Can we add test without? Yes, sir. Yeah, so we can add directly test either through NPM, or we can directly record to Codary, or we can use the TFS, or you can use your Excel sheet and all, and then import it into TFS. Is there any browser dependency? Yes, we support IE, we support Firefox, and we support Chrome.
People want to how to
Opera and those browsers are as of now. These are multiple browsers. Can you please tell me the scripting language it supports? So as I mentioned, it supports the Shehash, it supports the scripting language. Control the browser Firefox Chrome. See, for Chrome, basically what happens is you can record through IE and you can play back in Chrome, right? So maybe that would be, you might have to check if that was a third-party control or something, and what was the type of control which was there, which was not able to identify the control. Do we need to make some specific information?
It will support XPath and so use just that.
But I don't know which version of the Firefox you are using. So we have specific versions which we support in Firefox, and in Chrome we specifically support the playback versions.
How many types of recording it supports?
చెప్పింది
At runtime, application
Firefox,
action, how to do the
Are there any limitation
So there is no out-of-the-box solution for this.
How many
Inter-
types of recording
Acting
supports?
actually
దాంట్లో different types ఉంటాయి.
రికార్డింగ్ ప్రతి దాని
దాంట్లో different types ఉంటాయి.
అందులో రికార్డ్ చేసుకోవడానికి
అనలాగ్ రికార్డింగ్, స్టాండర్డ్ రికార్డింగ్
And there is limitations with that.
అది సపోర్ట్ చేస్తారా?
As of now, I would say the
By
limitation
default
will
is
only be the version which we are supporting.
Ah.
And to 2013, I think we are supporting Firefox.
Actually ఉందా లేదా?
2013, and I will get back to you. I will not comment
Types of recording.
comment on that. I will get back to you with the exact version which are supported. Is there any documentation on how to put in my action being converted to convert calls? How do you put this? This question. Is it work infrastructure controls? Okay, so it works for infrastructure controls through our partner.
డిఫరెంట్ వర్షన్స్ అయిపోతుంది
It is
ఓకే వర్షన్స్ అయిపోతుంది
can support.
With different versions.
How to capture many of
9, 7, 8.
on household. Okay. This is again something which probably I'll take up as a next because this is something we need to show. We'll take up in the next session.
Yeah, Himanshu, I guess we will take a couple more questions, then we'll wind up because we are running short of time. We are already 4:10. So just probably a couple of questions. In case, guys, if you have any more questions, please send an email to us. Either me or Himanshu could respond to your questions. Would that be fine, Himanshu?
Yes.
So you can take a couple more questions and we can wind up.
Okay. So how to find values like HTML hyperlink or sometimes value for table or thread. Okay, this is again taken. I'll try to show this demo. Coding script does not stop the JavaScript. Does not stop for the JavaScript. So apart from adding a bit method in the script, is there any other solution for this? Okay, let me check for this. I'll note it down and we'll get back to you. Okay. Does Bullet support XPath? As of now, it doesn't support.
As of now, it doesn't support.
Why it's not? Why? Something which is more dependent on the popularity of the browser. I want to start from scratch.
మన క్వశ్చన్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేస్తుంది
Okay, so you can find all these documents from MSDN. You can just type code anywhere and you have step by step how to follow. Versions. I've already mentioned the browser part.
మోస్ట్ పాపులర్ ప్రాసెస్
Make very great, I'm not very sure.